Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Would you state your name for the record?
Michael Spindler.
Where do you live?
I live in the Los Angeles, California area.
What's your occupation?
I'm a forensic accountant.
What do you mean by forensic accountant?
Well, a forensic accountant does accounting work that is a bit more investigative in nature. So it's essentially taking a look at business records and accounting records in connection with some form of business issue.
How long have you worked in that field?
I've been a forensic accountant full-time since 1990.
What did you do before that?
Before that, I spent about 10 years doing auditing of financial statements.
Your educational background.
Yes, I graduated in 1981 from the State University of New York at Albany with a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting and a minor in economics.
Are you currently employed?
I am.
Who's your employer?
B. Riley Advisory Services.
What's B. Riley Advisory Services?
It's a national forensic accounting boutique firm that does forensic accounting, business valuations and appraisals, and bankruptcy and restructuring work.
How long have you been employed at B. Riley?
Since January of 2015.
What did you do for work prior to B. Riley?
Well, it's a long career, so I'll give you the highlights. I spent about 30 years with national accounting firms as partner at 2 different firms, and also was involved with a couple of forensic accounting boutique firms.
Okay. Do you hold any certifications?
I do.
What are they?
I'm a certified public accountant with licenses from 6 states: New York, California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Hawaii. I'm also certified in financial forensics. I'm a certified fraud examiner. I'm accredited in business valuation and a certified anti-money laundering specialist.
Do you participate in any professional organizations?
I do.
What are those?
Well, I've had leadership positions in a couple of them. I'll mention the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. I was the president of the Los Angeles chapter, and I'm currently on their board. I've been actively involved with the California Society of CPAs. I was the president of the Los Angeles chapter. It had 11,000 members at the time. Was also on Cal CPA Council, which is kind of their board of directors, and also member of the board of trustees of the Cal CPA Education Foundation.
Have you testified as an expert before?
I have.
Approximately how many times?
About 100 times, roughly. About half of that in trials and arbitrations.
What's your typical role in those cases?
Typically, it can take a number of forms, but commonly I will testify with respect to damages.
Have you done any film industry work?
Yes, I have.
What was that?
I've done work involving all the major film studios, and I've also done work on behalf of writers, directors, producers, actors, studio executives.
Your Honor, I'd like to proffer Mr. Spindler as an expert in forensic accounting.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
All right, so moved. Thank you.
What work did you do in this case?
Well, in this case, I was asked to take a look at issues with respect to lost earnings for Mr. Depp.
What in particular did you do?
I looked at accounting records that were produced by Mr. Depp's accounting firm, Ed White & Company. I looked at trial exhibits. I looked at deposition testimony. I looked at some trial testimony. And I've looked at various other documents and exhibits in connection with the case.
What specific period did you analyze with respect to lost earnings?
I looked at the period following the publication of the op-ed. So I looked at the period from December 18th, 2018 through October 31st, 2020.
materials did you review?
I looked at the accounting records that have been produced by Mr. Depp's accountants.
Any other materials?
Various deposition transcripts, trial testimony, contracts, etc.
What conclusions did you draw from your review?
I concluded that Mr. Depp suffered lost earnings of approximately $40 million.
How did you reach that conclusion?
Well, there are really two main components to that. The first relates to the loss of the role of Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates 6 film. So the loss related to the loss of that role in that franchise picture. It was $22.5 million based on testimony provided by Mr. Jack Wiggum. In addition, we looked at, yes?
Did you do anything else with respect to Pirates 6?
Well, we also calculated the net earnings that Mr. Depp would have received from that.
Okay. And what did you base your analysis of Pirates 6 on?
Based on the testimony of Mr. Jack Wiggum.
Okay. What else did you do with respect to the lost earning analysis that you did?
Well, the other main component to this is taking a look at all the other roles, the non-franchise films. So those films, studio films, independent films, and endorsements that Mr. Depp realizes and enjoys. So in connection with that, we looked at his bookings for the year 2017. And by bookings, I mean instances where Mr. Depp is hired for a project, and he receives that first money related to that project in 2017. So, in other words, you've got a deal, and cash has showed up, so it's real. So we looked at his 2017 bookings, and we calculated for that year, for that period, his bookings were about $17.5 million. The main components of that, Mr. Wiggum testified to. We then looked at the period of time following the op-ed of December 18th, 2018 through October 31st, 2020. So if annual earnings was $17.5 million, in what is known as a typical year, a reasonable base year, at that rate, what would we have expected Mr. Depp to have earned from that period of October 18th, 2018 through October 31st, 2020? And we then compared that to his bookings, his actual bookings for that period of time.
Why did you use 2017 as a typical base year?
Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, Mr. Wiggum testified that that was a typical year for Mr. Depp. And it's also the most recent clean year that was experienced. In 2018, you had the publication of the op-ed. That didn't happen in 2017.
Okay. Did you do anything, did you prepare anything to assist the jury with respect to the analysis that you performed?
We did prepare a chart, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
All right. Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I think this is Plaintiff Exhibit 1240. I'm going to, I'm not going to move it into evidence. I'm simply just going to use it, with your permission, and publish it to the jury so that the witness can explain it.
Any objection to demonstrative 1240? All right, demonstrative. Well, do you have electronic copy of it? Okay, that's fine.
We do. Okay. Who did this chart?
I, in combination with people working under my direction from my firm.
you explain to the jury what you've done here?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as we discussed previously, Mr. Depp lost the role in Pirates 6, and the effect of that was lost earnings of $22.5 million based on Mr. Wiggum's testimony. And then what we've shown here is the 10% agent commission.
So why did you deduct 10%?
Because that's the rate for Mr. Depp's agent. That's what his agent receives out of Mr. Depp's earnings in connection with setting up a project for Mr. Depp. So we deduct that 10%, which comes to $2,250,000, just 10% of $22.5 million. And the net effect of that, the amount that Mr. Depp would have received after deducting that fee, would have been $20,250,000. And that's the first component of this.
All right. What did you do in terms of the analysis of lost bookings for non-franchise films?
Okay, so that's the next section of the chart. And as I mentioned before, his 2017 bookings were about $17.5 million. So that rate of earnings over the period from mid-December through the end of October 2020, or mid-December 2018 through the end of October 2020, would come to about $32.8, $32.9 million. We then compared that to actual bookings during that period of time, of mid-December 2018 through the end of October 2020. That amount was $10,586,000. We deducted those bookings, the actual amounts, from what we would have expected to arrive at his lost bookings for non-franchise activity, and that comes to about $22.3 million. And once again, we've deducted the 10% agent's commission. So the net effect, the lost earnings to Mr. Depp after that agent's fee for non-pirate films comes to about $20 million.
What does the figure at the bottom corner of the chart, the $40,318 and $40,318,237, what does that represent?
Well, that's your grand total. That's the sum of those two components for total lost earnings of $40.3 million.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.